It's British Champions Day at Ascot. Stay with us for Racing Live on STV in 15 minutes. First, a full roundup of Saturday's news.
Good afternoon. The Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition have joined together to lay flowers near the spot where MP Sir David Amess was killed. The police have confirmed they are treating his murder as a terrorist incident. The 69-year-old, who dedicated more than half his life to politics, was stabbed multiple times at his constituency in Essex yesterday afternoon. A 25-year-old British man was arrested at the scene on suspicion of murder and remains in police custody. As part of the investigation, officers are also carrying out searches at 2 addresses in the London area. Carrie Davis reports.
From either side of the political divide, leaders put on a united front in response to an attack on UK democracy. The Prime Minister, the Labour leader, the Home Secretary and the Speaker of the House of Commons together paid their respects to Sir David Amess. The Southend MP was a husband and a father of 5. The 69-year-old dedicated almost 4 decades to public service. His constituents mourn a man who always championed their community. These tributes are only temporary, but there are calls for something more permanent.
He's a hard-working constituency MP who loved Southend, who loved his constituents, and I sincerely hope that as and when Southend-on-Sea is made a city, that there is a fitting tribute to him, a memorial to him I think should be built also within the city for his immense service.
Police remain guarding the church that is now the scene of a terrorist incident. That's what investigators are calling the fatal stabbing. They say the early investigation has revealed a potential motivation linked to Islamist extremism. As part of the investigation, officers are currently carrying out searches at 2 addresses in the London area, and these are ongoing. We've been here before. After the murder of Joe Cox 5 years ago, MPs were offered extra security. Now the protections in place are again under review.
There is direct communication taking place right now, all 600 plus MPs, as to their whereabouts, what they're doing in their constituency to make sure that they are protected so that they can go around serving their constituencies in that open way, but in a safe way. It's important that that continues.
It was part of the job Sir David relished despite the dangers. And now the government is working on balancing accessibility and safety. Carrie Davis, ITV News.
Well, our correspondent Geraint Vincent is in Leigh-on-Sea in Essex for us this lunchtime. Geraint, this has to be a community in shock today.
Of course it is, Sangeeta, shocked at an incident of appalling violence which has taken the life of a man who served this community for so very long. It's particularly striking among the people who've been laying flowers into David's memory here this morning, how many of them have personal memories of him and interacting with him. We spoke to a fireman who told us about the time that Sir David had invited him and all of his colleagues from the station up to the Palace of Westminster, and what a great time they'd had that day. Also here this morning was James Duddridge, who's the MP for a neighbouring constituency. We spoke to him here. He was clearly very upset, and he spoke about how Sir David had taught him so much by example of how to listen to constituents, how to make them feel comfortable, and how to stand up for them. And later today, some of those constituents will take the opportunity to remember Sir David together at a candlelit vigil in the centre of Southend, the town he worked so hard for.
Geraint, thank you very much. Well, as you've been hearing, the Home Secretary has asked all police forces to review security arrangements for MPs with immediate effect. Well, I'm joined now by our political correspondent, David Wood. David, how is this review likely to work?
In the immediate term, it means all MPs are being spoken to by their local police force to address any security concerns. And the MPs I've spoken to today are very grateful for that contact. The longer term, though, will look at how security can be enhanced for them when they're out and about in their constituencies, because there's huge security for them when they're in the Houses of Parliament. There's also extra security on offer, like alarms and panic buttons when they're at their homes, but they don't have any of that when they're out and about meeting constituents. And for so many MPs, that's what they really want to be doing. They're their constituents' voice in Parliament, but the balance between being visible and being safe is becoming harder to keep. And the longest-serving female MP says it's time now for a unique conference with Parliament, government and police about improving security for politicians.
How you make sure that MPs have a good connection with their voters and their constituents that elect them, but also stay safe in doing their work, is something not for the police to decide or for the government to decide, but it's something for MPs themselves, for Parliament as a whole. That's what we should do now. We can't simply say it's business as usual and the murder of an MP is just the price of a democracy.
And threats against MPs have only been increasing in recent years, so that balance between keeping them visible and safe is becoming even harder to keep.
OK, David, thank you very much. The Ministry of Defence have confirmed that a soldier has died in a training exercise on Salisbury Plain. The incident happened in an area where the Army carries out regular training exercises and is reported to have involved a tank. Wiltshire Police are now investigating the death. The United States has offered to pay financial compensation to relatives of the victims of a Kabul drone attack. 10 people, including 7 children, were mistakenly identified as suicide bombers and killed as the US was withdrawing from Afghanistan in August.
3, 2, 1, 0.
And a NASA spacecraft named Lucy is blasted off on a 12-year mission to explore asteroids around Jupiter. It's hoped it will shed some light on how our solar system's planets formed 4.5 billion years ago. And finally, if your financial planning involved winning the record £184 million Euro Millions jackpot, I'm afraid it's time to think again. The huge cash prize has been won by a single ticket holder in France. The jackpot went unclaimed on Tuesday and led to a surge of entries for last night's draw. And that is it for the moment. We'll have much more in our next bulletin at 6 o'clock. For now, though, have a lovely afternoon. Bye-bye.